So what's so good about living here? Well, number one, the weather, as I just mentioned, especially from mid-March through to the beginning of December. It never really gets cold. Coldest winter day is around 22 degrees C, so that's pretty damn warm by southerly standards. However, summer can be pretty challenging from time to time. My first summer here was pretty mild actually, and there's no guarantee of that. We're talking about weather here. I haven't used aircon much, only a few nights because it is pretty expensive. I've got the original unit here, and it's probably fairly inefficient. And of course, in summer you're paying peak rates for up until I think it's 9 o'clock at night. So that changes when that's only between December and March do you have peak electricity rates that are like that. Otherwise, it's just off peak for the rest of the year for the other 9 months. So, but you need to worry about using your aircon before 9 o'clock in summer. Here, the people here are pretty friendly in the main, and occasionally strangers will even say hello to you when you're just on a walk, which you never get in Melbourne. The pace of life is a little slower than in the big city, and locals have more time to chat. Cairns isn't your typical country town, though. Many people here are originally from the south, so it's a little different to a normal provincial Queensland town. In normal times, it's also populated with tourists from both interstate and overseas. Not uncommon to hear European accents from young packers wandering around town. Shopping isn't a big issue for me. I'm in walking distance of both Woolworths and Coles, plus Bunnings, Harvey Norman, and other retailers like Kmart located in Cairns Central. In the case of Kmart and other major retailers, the prices seem to be the same as what you'd pay elsewhere in Oz. The lack of Aldi, though, means that your ability to cut grocery costs are limited as you don't have as much competition. So that's a slight negative there, but I've learned to live with it. I'm obviously paying slightly more than I would in Melbourne, but so be it. Another thing Cairns has going for it is its public hospital, which has many of the services available in a major big city hospital. It's quite an attractive hospital too, I might add. It almost seems like a resort, but it is a hospital. It's definitely a hospital. Mind you, I had to go to Townsville for an operation on my eye, which required a specialist. So that wasn't available here. And Townsville actually services a lot more people. We're basically the end of the line up here in Cairns, but Townsville covers a much greater catchment area of potential patients. So they have more specialists there. The hospital is just 25 minutes walk away from me, and of course transport is also very good normally, as many airlines service this route due to tourism demand. Now, of course, that isn't the case right now, but assuming we do get back to normal, which could take could probably take a couple of years the way things are going, it should hopefully be reinstated and we won't have another disruption like this, but who knows. There's also a new performing arts centre, aquarium, and a decent central library. The public library is quite nice in an old sort of historic building, and quite pleasant. Now, my move here hasn't been a blinding success socially. That's probably the biggest downer. I've found it difficult to make friends in this city, which is, like I say, is a downer. Had a drinking mate here, but he relocated to Brisbane, which was a bit of a blow because it was nice to catch up with him. Actually, one of the guys here, I chatted to one of the people staying that are living here. He also owns his place just down there, and he was the one who mentioned going out to have a drink. I sent him a text. I didn't hear back from him, so I thought that was weird. He came up here and knocked on my door and had a look at my place and showed me his place, and that's the last I've heard of him. So maybe that's indicative of the sort of problems I'm having. I tried using social networking groups like Meetup, which is quite good, and I met a few people there, but nothing lasting. I guess it's the old story. If you're not working or studying in a city, it makes it difficult to get those social connections. Or maybe I just need to work harder at it. I don't know. And of course, another negative is the youth crime here. I've had a couple of bikes nicked, and I know a couple of people who have been broken into. And as a matter of fact, that guy I just mentioned, he actually was broken into years. This is a long time ago, about 7 years ago, I think he said. He's up on the second level, I think, and someone snuck up through his balcony window, the actual big sliding doors, and went through his place. And he was asleep. He'd actually flaked out, and he just had the fly wire shut, and they'd broken that, and walked and got and nicked stuff from his place. But he wasn't. He was asleep while it happened. So yeah. The idea, I had the same story in Vietnam. There was an expat who had exactly the same type of thing happen to him there just before Tet, when people get fairly desperate to get money to buy gifts. So it's a universal problem, I guess. I would assume that a place like Trinity Beach would be a bit safer, but I'm only guessing there. It seems like it's a more cohesive, family-orientated area. This is more. It's more bohemian, I guess, this area, a bit mixed culturally with a higher Asian population here, and so it's a bit more of a melting pot, and I guess maybe it's higher risk. But they always say the M suburbs in Cairns are the ones to avoid, and that was actually one of the suburbs that took a big dip in the realestate.com mini survey of house prices. They've had quite a large drop just recently. Okay, so now finally onto the figures, the cost of living here for me. Now just keep in mind, this is just for me. You need to extrapolate for your own situation, but it might give you some idea of a guide. So I'll just go through it one by one. And this is what I've compiled today, and to the best of my knowledge, this is what I'm looking at. And I'm probably erring a bit on the conservative side. They may be slightly higher or a little lower, but it's in the ballpark. This will give you an idea. Anyway, my council rates are $2,000 per annum, and that, unlike in Melbourne, that includes water charges for actually providing the infrastructure for water. Water itself is charged separately, and my annual water bill comes to $150, also charged through the council. Body corporate for me is around $3,600 a year. And again, that was similar to what I was paying in Melbourne. Although in Melbourne, the building, we had lifts and we had a spa and things like that. So it's not necessarily apples with apples, but up here, you've got to remember, part of your body corporate, you're paying insurance. You're paying a premium for the structure insurance because of the possibility of cyclones. So you've got to keep that in mind. Electricity, for me, is $1,000. Again, that's very much on the low side with hardly any use of aircon, so just keep that in mind. I think you could pay a lot more, and we don't have any competition, remember. We've just got Ergon. My internet is around 840. That's a 50 meg download and around the same upload. I had to go for a higher plan because I tried the 12 gig download, which worked fine for me, but the upload was hopeless. I couldn't upload YouTube videos, absolutely useless. But I've actually got fibre into the flat, so that's not bad. It's a very stable connection. Home maintenance, look, I've just put a figure of 1,000 there. That will go up and down depending on situation, but Body Corp looks after all the external stuff, so it probably would cover most of it. But of course, I'll need a new oven, and that'll obviously set me back another $1,000. And there's a few, and I want to update my kitchen, so there's a few jobs to do, but that's not general maintenance. So this is just for standard maintenance, and it's a very conservative figure. Now, supermarket, in total amount, that's including all the items you'd buy in a supermarket, not just the food, looking at around $5,200 per year I'd be looking at. And for grog, about $3,500 per year. So I come up with a grand total there of $17,290. Now, there's obviously other things like clothes and stuff when you spend money. I haven't included that, but I don't spend much on it, to be quite frank. It'd be a piddling amount. Transportation costs, virtually non-existent. I get the occasional bus fare maybe every couple of weeks, if that, and that's just to get up to Dan Murphy's. And so it's hardly worth mentioning. It's that low. I just walk everywhere. Now, I have got another figure here just for travel. When I was able to travel overseas, of course, I was splurging. I wouldn't say I was splurging. Well, it's going to cost me a bit of money. That's all I'm saying. I didn't go for real luxurious accommodation, and I get to go for generally the cheapest airfares I can get. And I would just say on the low side, maybe I would spend $5,000 a year on a couple of trips, between $5,000 and $8,000. Now, of course, that expense doesn't exist at the moment, so I guess it depends on the situation. So I've included that as a separate figure. So the base figure we're looking at is $17,290 as a basic figure of cost of living for all the standard items. And if you want to add in that luxury, well, in my case, it'd be $5,000 to $8,000. But of course, everyone's different. Everyone has different types of holidays, and so that's a very rubbery figure. But I thought I'd pass it on anyway. Also, there's a number of bulk billing GPs here, so I guess that's important to people. In my area, anyway, it's not a problem finding a bulk billing GP. Now, I don't have a car and I rarely eat out while in Oz. That's just the caveat on what I'm giving you here. It is, just my lifestyle, which is reasonably frugal. So just keep that in mind. Now, as you know, the ban on international travel has really hit me hard. I was hoping to be in Vietnam again during the Cairns hot summer. It's not only better weather at that time, it's winter up there. But I have a better social scene there when I go there as well. So I love it for the whole experience. Being in a foreign country. I like the Vietnamese. I love their food. I feel super safe there. It's a reasonably cheap place to be. Winter has the only downside is very, very polluted. I have to stay outside of central Saigon. It's just not good for the health. But apart from that, I love it. But unfortunately, given the circumstances now, Vietnam is having some increases in cases like in Da Nang, and so the chances of them opening the borders in the near future is not good. So I'm not looking forward to being here in summer. Really not looking forward to it. But that may be what I'm stuck with, unless I want to go to New Zealand, but I'm not super keen on that. That's one way of avoiding the heat, I guess. So look, as I say, I'm not your typical Cairns resident, so please keep that in mind when crunching your own cost of living figures. Hope this has been of some use to people contemplating making the move up north. I think it's a good idea and you should look at it seriously, but know what you're getting into. Maybe my suggestion would be take a holiday up here for a while, get a feel for the place before you take the plunge. That would be my advice. So I hope that's been illuminating for people who are thinking of making the move. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.